Howdy y'all, Big Country here, and today I'm going to be going over part 1 of what not to ask during a sales interview. If you haven't already, make sure you give this video a fat thumbs up, leave me a comment down below about what you think, subscribe to my channel, and bang the notification bell. Reason I wanted to start off with a video about what questions not to ask or to ask is because there's two different types of communication, explicit and implicit. This video is more focused on implicit communications because it's not just about what you say during an interview, but how we say things. And not just how we say things, how we ask things. So question number 1. Now, to preface everything, what I'm talking about, questions not to ask during a sales interview, these are all questions that the information that you get from them, you will want to get at some point during the interview process. Part 1 is mostly focused on initial phone screens with recruiters or just initial interviews where you're not getting into deep stages in the interview process. So to kick off, question number 1 that you don't want to ask: do not ask about money in the first interview. Reason for that is because you should probably already have an idea of what it's going to pay. If you don't, you haven't been doing your research, so you're probably not interested enough. So don't waste your time. Don't waste anybody else's time. There's 2 great resources on where to look up where you should probably stack at, where the comps are. You can go to Zippia, and you can also go to RepView. So that's Zippia.com and RepView.com. Get an idea of where the average comp is, how the bell curve lies for your particular role, and then come in there armed with what you're worth and an idea of how much money you brought your last company. Reason we're not asking about it in the first interview is because if you come in and talk to a recruiter and immediately ask, what's the base salary? What's the accelerators? All of that, you're going to come off as a big red flag for being a tire kicker or a quote shopper. Don't do it. Question number 2, do not ask this in the first interview, and don't even say any iteration of this. What is the day-to-day like? Guys, this is going to be a sales job. That's why Big Country is here. You should know that probably a part of your day is going to be blitzing or cold calling, following up on prospects or leads, wherever they come from. You're probably also going to be searching for new leads, building value, building a use case over there, following up, sitting in or providing demos, and actually maybe putting together proposals. If you want to find out what the schedule is like, that's not a question for the recruiter. That's a question for the sales manager or whoever you talk to that maybe is going to be on your team in the future. Now, if you really want to impress whoever you're interviewing and initially get some type of an idea of what the actual schedule is like, what question I recommend asking, and this goes back to implicit communications, how does the top rep on the team structure their day? What that's going to do is it's going to implicitly say, I'm competitive. I have aspirations to be either the top rep or competitive with the top rep. And it's going to give you probably a same sense of the same information that you would get asking, what is the day-to-day like, while coming off much stronger. Question number 3, not to ask: what do you all do to increase employee retention or prevent employee burnout? I heard this one from a candidate that I had go off at another interview the other day, and I was blown away. I was like, bro, you can't be asking that. That is not a good question. For one, it's negative oriented. Like, I go back to implicit communications. If you ask that, it shows that you're prejudging the job. You're almost creating a bear case for it. And stock sets when you're trying to create a negative case for it. That is absolutely not something to be doing during the first interview. Guys, the first interview is about selling yourself, and then you can get yourself sold on the follow-up interviews, but you got to get that foot in the door. A great way to ask the same question during a later interview that will implicitly communicate positive things or reflect positively on you is, tell me about a rep who was struggling at first and changed a couple of things and now they're doing great. Or tell me a story about the folks who have been here a really long time. If the person who you're interviewing with starts to stutter and can't really address it directly, then maybe that could be a red flag for you. But just don't ask point blank, what's the employee retention like? That makes it sound like you're going for an engineer job or an HR job. Guys, this is a sales job. You need to put out there that you're a grinder and that you're willing to put in work to get results. results. So at the end of the day, that's going to be a lot on you. You need to take ownership for your output. And so when you ask a question like, what do y'all do to prevent employee burnout? Sure, there's things that the company in a sales job could do, but if you come out and ask stuff like that, it's going to come off like you don't take as much ownership over your own program. Question number 4. This is a big rookie mistake. Do not ask, when can I expect to hear back from you? That is awful. Guys, this is a sales interview. You need to close everybody out. So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Asking for objections, pulling them out of the interviewer and addressing them on the spot. The strongest way that I can recommend you closing a interviewer out during an interview process is the following. Been a pleasure speaking with you today, Mr. or Mrs. Interviewer. What can I improve on to stand out in the next interview? Another line to throw in there, how soon can I come back in for the next interview? Now, obviously, you do not want to ask these questions if you think that you just butchered the interview and the vibes are not good. These are very confident closing lines, but there's a lot of standard closing lines out there, like, what objections can I address now before I come back in? Basically, you want to pull the objections out of them so that you can address them on the spot. Maybe the commute's really long and you really don't care. You need to go over that with them, because some interviewers aren't going to ask you the tough questions. So if you help put their mind at ease proactively, what I recommend is that before you even go into the interview, you go over your rap sheet, your resume, your address, all the little details, and pre-plan what objections you're going to get, and then have a game plan of how you're going to address them, which I will address in another video. But anyway, guys, big thanks for joining me today. If you haven't already, make sure you leave me a comment down below about what you think or what questions you'd like me to go over in a future video. Subscribe to my channel, bang the big country bell, and I will see you next time.